Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Susan. And I met Jason and Susan when I was managing a political candidate this past summer, Missa Aloisi in the Old North End, New North End, who is good friends with Jason and Susan. So I met you both there kind of briefly, but I didn't really have a chance to sit down and talk to you until my own race came around. And I just felt like there was a kind of instant kind of kindred connection and just like a nice rapport. And so it's been one of the great pleasures of campaigning has been all of the people that I've met throughout not only the district but Burlington, and just getting a chance to really make those bonds and connections. So it's very meaningful. So thank you for hosting us tonight. Um, my name is Monroe Zakaras. So running for city council. It's my first time running for political office. I live up on Bayview Street, so I don't know if everyone knows where that is. It's just a small street in between Willard and South Union Street. Wonderful street. We like to say it's the best street in the South End, though I'm sure everyone claims that for themselves.
Yeah, careful.
I know that gets a little.
Yeah.
But just really wonderful neighborhood. This is my partner Michael, my partner of 17 years, who is holding down the fort. We have two daughters, 8 and 5. Mia and Emmeline. So he's really just been the rock star, just like parent, house manager, just keeping me fed, making sure that I get some sleep, all the good things. So he's really like the behind the scenes kind of force that's really making it possible for me to do this at all. So thank you.
I'm sure you know a little bit about this. There's a spouse support group.
Yes.
Meets on Tuesdays. We can.
Yeah. Great. We'll talk.
So we moved here about 7 years ago. We were living in Oakland at the time, though we've moved around a lot in our adult lives. And I'm from a small town in upstate New York, about 4-hour drive from here, in the Syracuse, Utica area. From a working class family. My parents had me when they were really young. My father joined the Marine Corps. A lot of men in my family actually have served in the military in some form. I also had dairy farmers in my family, service industry folks. So I grew up actually on small military bases all over the country, and I even lived in Japan for 3 years growing up. And so it's really nice to come back to the part of the country that feels most like home to me. And to raise my kids here, we had our eldest daughter Mia in Oakland. We moved here when she was about 15 months old, and no regrets, no looking back. Like, this is home. We're rooted here very deeply. We had our youngest daughter Emmeline here, so she's a born and bred Vermonter. Though I hear that you have to go back like 3 generations to claim that. I'm still a Flatlander apparently, or she's still a Flatlander. But yeah, so I'm running out of course, a deep love for Burlington. And really, I'm running for my girls in many ways. I think a lot about our eldest is going to be graduating high school in about 10 years, which blows I don't know how time goes by that quickly. It kind of blows my mind to think about that. But I think a lot about, what kind of a town is Burlington going to be in that time? What kind of a town do I want it to be? What do I want her to think of it? How, I want her to thrive. I want her to be proud of it. I wanted her to see her values, embedded in the community here. And, the communities I grew up in were very tight-knit. It was the kind of communities that people didn't have much, but they would not hesitate to ask their neighbors for absolutely anything. Sometimes to an annoying degree. Like, you didn't really have much privacy. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
On your thing. So it didn't have like a whole lot of privacy, but really like this sense of just kind of camaraderie and neighborliness. And so that is kind of deeply born into me, I think. Just really trying to figure out, how do I show up for my neighbors? How do I show up for my town? This is a moment where we're facing a lot of challenges, both locally, at the national level, globally. And I think a lot of people, when things are challenging, our impulse sometimes is to wall ourselves off, almost as like a coping mechanism, because it's just so much to deal with. And I really want to lean in, and I want other people to lean in with me. I think it's like going to be the thing that helps us survive the next 4 years, and really just kind of indefinitely. So that's really why I'm running. A lot of people say this is a thankless task. Why are you doing it? And that's really that. And so I think I have a lot of good skills, hard skills, and experiences and perspectives that are really well suited to this moment in Burlington. So I'm a public health researcher and a climate change and health researcher. For public health, on the public health side of things, I focus a lot on the social and structural determinants of health. This is basically how the conditions of our lives shape our health and well-being. It's looking at things like poverty, housing, education, food insecurity, mental health, substance use. I mean, really a lot of the things that we're seeing, Burlingtonians grappling with right now. And then on the climate change and health side, about 5 years ago, I started to kind of shift there, looking at climate change as an environmental determinant of our health. and looking at how it shapes physical and mental health outcomes over the lifespan from our children all the way up to older age. And so as a part of that work, we look a lot at something called a just transition. So as we transition to a low or no carbon economy, how do we do that in a way where the benefits and the burdens are well balanced, so that everyone of all socioeconomic levels are benefiting from things and are not unduly burdened by the cost of that transition. And I think about that a lot too with the health impact side of things, because climate change impacts people of vulnerable groups, marginalized groups first and worst, and that includes on the health side as well. So I just advocate for health and well-being to be a primary consideration when we think about climate change, mitigation and adaptation strategies. And so part of my work too is looking at the local level. How do we build climate resilience? So we know that no matter what we do to reduce our footprint here, we're still going to get hit with the impacts of climate change. That's going to happen no matter what. As we can see, catastrophic flooding, algae blooms, which are related to climate change, wildfire smoke that is now repeatedly coming in from the American West and Canada, heat waves, all of this, right? This is going to come no matter what. So how do we build resilience to that, and how do we make sure that we are prepared, including for our most vulnerable groups, and that we can kind of bounce back from those things better every time? And so to my knowledge, there's no one on City Council that actually has that professional background in climate change work, or for public health research for that matter. And I just think, especially right now at a time when the Trump administration is trying to roll back a lot of that work, it's really important that we kind of stay our course and that we don't preemptively start to move backwards. And so I would be a voice on council to advocate for continuing on that path. And then on the public health side, what I support is a broad community toolbox to address the challenges that we're seeing downtown, in the sense that, of course, the police department has an important role to play. But there are many other actors also in this space, including the fire department. I was just meeting with Chief LaChance recently, and he informed me that they responded to 11,000 calls last year for overdoses and wellness checks, which is a tremendous amount. And they do it fairly quietly, kind of behind the scenes. So they're doing a lot here. Of course, we've got our harm reduction groups. We've got mental health practitioners, social workers, people in the CAPE program in the police department. There are just a lot of people playing really important roles based on their expertise, based on the needs of the communities. So I would really advocate for continuing to push that forward, making sure that we are addressing things in that kind of with harm reduction at its core, but also meeting needs in the moment, and just making sure that all these actors are actually working together and collaborating. Right now it kind of feels like everybody's kind of off in their own pod. There's the BPD kind of doing their thing, the fire department quietly doing their thing, harm reduction groups over here. Really, they should all be collaborating and working together, because we're all working towards the same goals, and they can support each other in various ways. So I just think that those are just two. So again, like the public health and the climate change and health, those are just critical kind of perspectives that I would bring to the table that I think are really helpful in Burlington right now. On like the hard skills side, I work in a pretty high, back to the point where people say, this is a thankless job, it's really hard, it's really divisive. They're not wrong. I do work in very kind of high stakes, high paced research environments with, big researchers, doctors, big personalities. I manage multi-million-dollar grants from the National Institutes of Health. So it's like I know how to craft really large budgets. I know how to manage big projects. I know how to manage big personalities. Importantly, I know how to find common ground and how to come to decisions as a group. I'm the kind of person who can work with just about anyone. So in my background, as you probably suspected when I said that my father was in the Marine Corps, I come from a conservative Republican family and community. So I've really, Jason actually put this really well before when he said that I'm like, my whole life is like a bridge, right? Kind of going from this background to where I am today with my own political views and a different socioeconomic class, but I haven't forgotten where I come from, and I can really connect with people of all socioeconomic classes, of all political views, and I really can find common ground and work with everyone. And so again, that's a really crucial skill, I think, in general on City Council, but just also just in this really divisive moment. And fundamentally, I feel really positive. I love Burlington. I feel good about our future. I think that our best days are ahead. And so I would like to work together to kind of move forward on these things. And I think that there actually is a lot of bipartisan support to move good work forward. I mean, even knocking on doors and talking to people, I'm amazed at how much common ground I can find, even with people who have very different views than I do about what should be happening downtown, or how we should be addressing substance use in public, or, my political views. I'm the Progressive Party candidate, so some people are like, look, I'm a Democrat. I don't know about voting for you, and yet, like, it's amazing how much common ground we can find. And so I really want to lean into that, and I really think that there's a lot of good work to be done.
Nice.
Wrap up.
No, I think we should do a go around.
Wrap up?
People say
Okay.
their names and see it.